So, why should we care for the elderly? I mean, it's a super simple question, right? But before you just nod and answer in your head with the usual, platitudes about respect and wisdom, I actually want you to take a second and really think about how society actually treats older people. Do we care for them by empowering them? Or do we care for them by just kind of quietly stripping away their independence? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are exploring a really brilliant piece of source material that takes a seemingly lighthearted story and uses it to tackle some surprisingly heavy themes about empathy, family dynamics, and this incredibly pervasive societal issue known as ageism. All right, let's just dive right in. The source text we're looking at today centers around a wonderfully clever short story by Asha Nehemiah called Vitamin M. And what I absolutely love about this text is how it operates on two completely different levels. On the surface, it's this hilarious, chaotic adventure of a young boy trying to keep track of his grandfather in a bustling city. But just beneath that surface, it's basically a masterclass in subverting all of our expectations about aging, memory, and, well, who actually knows what's going on. It really gives us a fantastic lens to examine how families navigate the later stages of life. Section 1. The Need for Vitamin M. Okay, so the story kicks off with a woman named Vidya. She's sorting out this colorful array of pills, basically wishing someone would just invent a magical memory pill for the elderly. She literally calls it Vitamin M. She is completely convinced her 75-year-old father is losing his faculties. But notice the visual irony the author sets up right off the bat here. Vidya describes him as this frail old figure who needs constant babysitting. But if you actually look at him sitting there with his newspaper, he looks pretty darn content and engaged, doesn't he? And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates the massive gap between perception and reality. To his daughter, Vidya, he is essentially a liability. She actually shudders, recalling how he once took a double dose of medicine and got lost on a walk, which, by the way, is exactly why she forced him to move in with her in the first place. But Grandpa's view of himself? It's completely different. He is a former lawyer, he is sharp, he's firm, and he feels fully capable. He proudly notes that for the better part of his 75 years, he has been entirely self-sufficient. So how did he even end up here, being scolded like a toddler? Well, after a minor slip and fall in his beloved, quiet garden back home, Vidya's reaction was swift and absolute. She locked up his house, moved him to this noisy, crowded city into what he calls a poky little flat, and she strictly forbade him from ever leaving alone. You can practically feel the condescension radiating from her as she literally assigns her young son Ravi to be his own grandfather's warden. Section 2. A Prisoner in the City. So the core conflict kicks off the very moment Vidya leaves for work. It's the first day of Ravi's school holidays, but instead of playing outside, he's been deputized as a security guard. Now, as soon as his mother is gone, Grandpa puts down his paper and casually announces he's going to the corner shop. Ravi, who is obviously terrified of his mother's wrath, immediately jumps up and offers to go for him, but Grandpa just looks at him with this sharp suspicion and drops this fantastic line. "Told you to keep me a prisoner here, has she?" I mean, he is acutely aware of the dynamic, and with that, he simply gets up and leaves. Section 3. Ravi's Secret Mission. So now, poor Ravi is faced with a massive dilemma. He obviously can't forcibly stop a former lawyer, so he decides on a desperate plan. He is going to secretly tail his grandfather, and what follows is just pure chaos. First, they go to the park, where Ravi gets yelled at for shushing a baby and has to literally crawl out on all fours just to stay hidden. Next, a tea stall, where these super territorial street vendors scold Ravi for lurking around. Then Ravi ducks into a building to hide from traffic, only to realize he's in a ladies' hairdressing salon, and he gets chased out amidst a volley of shrieks. And then finally, disaster strikes. Grandpa briskly boards a bus, and Ravi loses him completely. But here's the kicker. While Ravi is enduring all of this massive public humiliation, sweating bullets, and nearly fainting from stress, what is Grandpa doing? He's having the absolute time of his life. The source text makes a very specific point to list his snacks at the tea stall. He gets a sugary cup of tea, 2 bananas, and an ice cream. Now, why is that funny? Because every single one of those items is strictly forbidden by his daughter's dietary rules. Grandpa isn't just wandering aimlessly, he is deliberately executing this joyous, rule-breaking rebellion. Section 4. The Birthday Twist. Well, the fun comes to a screeching halt for Ravi when that bus pulls away. Frantic, he checks the park, he checks the barber shop, nothing. Sick with worry, he trudges home, terrified he's completely failed his mission. But when he opens the front door, he hears literally the most beautiful sound in the world, the gentle whir of Grandpa snoring safely in his bed. Now, later that evening, something amazing happens. Grandpa hands Ravi this beautifully wrapped gift. It's a detective storybook. Grandpa casually mentions he always gives gifts to children on his birthday. But it's actually his sly way of saying, I knew you were tailing me all day, you little spy. Honestly, his awareness is razor sharp. And guys, that leads us to the absolute mic drop moment of the text. When Vidya, the mother, realizes Grandpa's handing out gifts, she freezes. She looks over at the calendar on the wall where she herself had circled today's date in bright red ink and written Papa's birthday. She had completely, totally forgotten her own father's birthday. And Grandpa, turning to his son-in-law, delivers this utterly perfect, devastating line. My daughter needs some vitamin M, I think, for her memory. Vidya flushes a deep red. In one sentence, the entire premise of the story has been flipped completely upside down.
Section 5. Lessons on Ageism.
So, taking a step back, what is the source material actually trying to teach us here? Well, Asha Nehemiah used comedy and a pretty great twist ending to show us exactly how quickly society dismisses the elderly. The textbook actually asks us to reflect on some specific words used in the text. Words like frail, pokey, forbid, and pottering. You see, Vidya was so incredibly focused on Grandpa's minor physical decline that she entirely invalidated his lived experience. These words paint a really vivid picture of that claustrophobic reality. Think about it. When we look at older adults, do we see capable individuals, or do we automatically confine them to pokey spaces and forbid them from actually living? It's a really powerful reminder that physical aging doesn't erase a person's dignity. Which leaves us with this final, really critical reflection question from the text. Have you ever seen someone's opinions disregarded just because of their age? Whether it's automatically assuming an older person can't handle technology, or maybe treating them like a child when they just forget a minor detail? The truth is, we all carry biases. The story of vitamin M reminds us that before we try to prescribe a cure for someone else's memory, we might want to check our own memories first and remember the respect they truly deserve. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.